Have you ever wondered what it's like to be one of the most protected people in Africa? Imagine having hundreds of guards, armored cars, and even snipers watching out for you all the time. Today, we're going to explore the wild world of Africa's most heavily guarded leaders. Get ready for a journey filled with fancy cars, intense security, and some pretty surprising stories. The King of Morocco, royal protection at its finest. Let's start with the King of Morocco, Mohammed VI. This guy isn't just rich, he's super rich, with about $8 billion. He's one of the wealthiest kings in the world. But all that money means he needs some serious protection. The king has a special group called the Moroccan Royal Guard. These aren't your average bodyguards. There are 6,000 of them. They wear cool red berets and white uniforms that make them look fancy. But don't let their fancy clothes fool you. These guards are tough and well-trained. When the king travels, it's like a parade. He has a bunch of fancy cars like armored Mercedes-Benz and Range Rovers. And get this, when he goes to the mountains, he has over 20 police motorcycles riding with him. It's like something out of an action movie. The president of Nigeria, a traffic-stopping convoy. Next up is Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria. Nigeria is a big deal in Africa. It's the second largest economy on the continent. But being in charge of such an important country means you need a lot of protection. President Tinubu takes security to a whole new level. His convoy, that's the group of cars that travel with him, is so big it could cause a traffic jam all by itself. We're talking about more than 100 vehicles. Can you imagine seeing that many cars all moving together? The people protecting the president are called the Guards Brigade. These soldiers are super tough and ready for anything. They make sure no one can get close to the president unless they're supposed to. The president of Zimbabwe. Learning from the past, in Zimbabwe, President Emerson Mnangagwa knows a thing or two about danger. He took over from Robert Mugabe, who ruled Zimbabwe for 37 years. Mnangagwa has already survived some scary stuff, like people trying to blow him up at a political rally. Because of all these dangers, Mnangagwa's security team is always on high alert. They have cool high-tech radios and lots of armored vehicles. When the president travels, it looks more like a military parade than a normal trip. The president of Ivory Coast. Winning at all costs, Alassane Ouattara, the president of Ivory Coast, has a pretty wild story. When he first became president, it led to a really bad civil war. Lots of people got hurt, which is really sad. Now, Ouattara needs a ton of protection to stay safe. Ouattara is always surrounded by at least 10 heavily armed guards. That's not all. There are snipers on rooftops and guards with super advanced weapons wherever he goes. When he travels, he has armored Humvees. Those are like really tough military trucks, and motorcycles all around him. The King of Eswatini, living large in a small kingdom. Now, let's talk about a king you might not have heard of before. King Mswati Ahi rules a small country called Eswatini. It used to be called Swaziland, but the king changed the name in 2018. Even though Eswatini is tiny, King Mswati lives like he's in charge of a much bigger place. He's worth about $200 million, which is a lot of money, especially in a country where many people are very poor. The king loves fancy things. He once spent $61 million of the country's money on himself. He bought a super expensive car called a Maybach 62 and built 11 palaces, one for each of his 11 wives. Can you imagine having 11 houses? As you can guess, not everyone is happy about this. That's why King Mswati needs a lot of protection. His guards are more like a small army. They're very tough and will do anything to keep the king safe. When the king travels, he has over 150 cars in his convoy. In a small country like Eswatini, that's a huge deal. The president of Cameroon. A half-century of security. Paul Biya, the president of Cameroon, has been in power for almost 50 years. That's longer than most of our parents have been alive. Being in charge for so long means he's made a lot of enemies over the years. Biya has survived several attempts on his life. People have tried to overthrow him, assassinate him, and even kidnap him. Because of all these dangers, Biya has built up an impressive security team. When Biya travels, it's quite a sight. He has horses, motorcycles, and a bunch of fancy armored SUVs. His favorite car is a Range Rover Sentinel, which is built to withstand bullets and bombs. Around 2,000 people work to keep Biya safe. That's like having a small town dedicated just to your protection. The President of Kenya, battling multiple threats. In Kenya, President William Ruto faces threats from several dangerous groups. There's Al-Shabaab, a terrorist group that has attacked Kenya before. Then there's the Mungiki, a criminal gang that causes a lot of trouble. And don't forget the Sabet Land Defense Force, which wants to take power for their tribe. With all these dangers, it's no wonder Ruto has serious security. He has over 2,500 people working to keep him safe. The most important group is called the Presidential Escort Unit. These guards are like super soldiers. They're trained in everything from hand-to-hand combat to using high-tech surveillance equipment. Ruto usually travels in a fancy armored Toyota Land Cruiser. When he's on the move, his convoy is impressive. It's like a carefully planned dance of armored SUVs, motorcycles, and police cars all moving together through the city. The President of Rwanda, a military man's approach. Paul Kagame, the President of Rwanda, knows a thing or two about security. He used to be a military officer and led troops during Rwanda's terrible civil war and genocide. Now, as president, he uses that experience to keep himself safe. Kagame's security team is made up of people from different agencies, including the Rwandan Defense Force and the National Intelligence Agency. But the most important group is the Special Presidential Guard. These are the elite of the elite, responsible for protecting Kagame up close. The President of South Africa, balancing safety and style. In South Africa, President Cyril Ramaphosa faces some unique challenges. South Africa is a powerful country, but its cities can be dangerous. Ramaphosa, who used to organize big strikes and has been involved in politics for a long time, needs to be extra careful. Ramaphosa's security team is known as the Blue Light Gang because of the flashing lights on their vehicles. These guards take their job very seriously, sometimes too seriously. They've been criticized for being too aggressive on the roads. Unlike some other leaders, Ramaphosa prefers a custom-made BMW as his official car. His convoy is quite a sight, with motorcycle escorts and a fleet of vehicles that looks like something out of a Hollywood movie. So there you have it, a peek into the world of Africa's most protected leaders. From kings living in luxury to presidents facing real dangers, these leaders spare no expense when it comes to their safety. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the world of high-level security in Africa. If you enjoyed learning about these fascinating security details, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to our channel for more interesting content.